A new Democratic fresh face comes out as a blatant anti-Semite. AOC lies about her own Green New Deal, and Virginia settles into place. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. As I've been saying for the past several weeks, one of the beautiful things about being a Democrat is the worse you do, the more the headlines read, Republicans pounce. And boy, there's been a lot of pouncing lately, because it turns out that the Democratic fresh faces, so fresh, so face, they all weirdly seem to be coming out mistakenly as communists and anti-Semites. Like, who would have thought such a thing? Except for everyone with half a brain who's been following this stuff. So AOC made a complete fool of herself last week because her team released an insane Green New Deal plan. They released it on her website. It was up for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then it was pulled down because this document, the 6-page document, showed that the Democratic program on the Green New Deal is fully insane. It suggested we should abolish airplanes in favor of trains. It suggested we were going to build charging stations, quote unquote, everywhere, that we were going to retrofit or rebuild every building in the United States. It suggested that we were going to make sure that we had vacation time and full health care and full parental leave and full payment for people who were unable and unwilling to work. I mean, the plan was full-scale communism. It was just a communist plan. It was openly red. It was just full. It wasn't even green. It was just red. Okay, and AOC put it up on her website, and then she removed it from her website. And then she lied about it. So last Friday night, apparently on Tucker Carlson's program, one of AOC's top advisors was on with Tucker Carlson talking about the so-called Green New Deal, and he just started lying about it. He was asked specifically about propositions in AOC's document, and he just said, that wasn't in the document. I don't know what you're talking about. That was, no, we never put anything like that up. That's not there. And Tucker's like, what now? Like, I'm looking at the document. And this advisor just is lying. I mean, he just openly lies. The guy's name is Robert Hockett. He's a Cornell professor and advisor to AOC. And he says, no. AOC has never said anything like that. Watch the lie.
Why would we ever pay people who are, quote, unwilling to work?
We never would, right? And AOC has never said anything like that, right? I think you're referring to some sort of a document that some doctored document that somebody other than us has been circulating.
Oh, I thought that came right from her. That was in the background or from her office, is my understanding.
No. She's actually tweeted it out to laugh at it. If you look at her latest tweets, it seems that apparently some Republicans have put it out there. I don't know the details.
Good. Well, then thank you for correcting me. I mean, because it seemed a little ridiculous.
Okay, that's a lie. That's a lie. It wasn't a backgrounder put out by her office, and this idiot is mixing up a mock version of the plan put out by a bunch of Republicans making fun of her. Not even Republicans, just generalized right-wing people on Twitter mocking the plan that she put out. I mean, we went over it word for word for several hours last week. It was not something that was put out by Republicans. It was something put out by AOC because she's a dummy, okay, and because her team is filled with dummies. And this guy is apparently another one of those dummies. So then AOC tweets this out. She tweeted out, there are multiple doctored Green New Deal resolutions and frequently asked questions floating around. There's also a draft version that got uploaded and taken down. There's also draft versions floating out there. Point is, the real one is our submitted resolution, House Resolution 109. So now she's claiming that there are some versions that are doctored. Okay, that's just a lie. They're not doctored. They're satire. Again, AOC has no capacity to understand humor. I know. We pretend that she actually has a sense of humor. No, not true. Okay, and then she says, well, what this actually was a draft version that got uploaded. Okay, a draft version of your document that suggests that you want to abolish airplanes in favor of trains, and that, let's assume that's all right. How did that even get into the drafting process? First of all, it's a lie. Okay, this was the most coordinated release of a Green New Deal in history. Right? It was legitimately coordinated down to the nub. Within 5 minutes of the HR resolution being introduced, it had been endorsed by 4 separate 2020 presidential candidates, and that same hour, this proposal went up on AOC's website, and AOC was the co-sponsor in the House. And she was specifically cited as the progenitor of this Green New Deal nonsense by all 4 of the Democratic nominees in the Senate, potential nominees in the Senate, who are running. So the suggestion is the most important day of AOC's life, her political life, in the Green New Deal, and she puts out, an old draft version? That's the claim now? And then it got taken down? Weird, because if it were an old draft version, you know what I would have assumed? Like if somebody in my office put up an old draft of an article, and then we realized it was an old draft, you know what would go up? The new draft. Wouldn't that be the thing you'd put up, right? You'd have like a backgrounder and a frequently asked questions. You say, oh, God, that was the wrong version. Here's the new version. Within 5 minutes, we just put up version 1.0. It's actually version 5.0 that should have gone up. As of today, there is still no background or FAQ on AOC's website from what I can see, which means no, you put up what you wanted to put up, and then you had to take it down because you looked like a dolt, because you looked like an idiot. That didn't stop the media. The media actually started running headlines about Republicans pounce on AOC's accidental release of the Green New Deal. What they really should be looking at is the House resolution. Now, what's hilarious is to watch the media change the narrative as AOC changes the narrative. So last week, you'll recall, both the New York Times and Politico defended the idiotic 6-page document itself. They said, well, it's breathtaking in its ambition and scope. It's incredible in what it seeks to do. Maybe it's never going to be implemented, but maybe that's the point. That's what Politico said. Now it's, oh, no. It was an accident, guys. You silly. Of course it was never realistic because it was an accident. Come on. I mean, she even said it was an accident. And then you started making fun of her because it was an accident. It's unbelievable. They shift on a dime and start mirroring AOC's narrative preferences. The same members of the media who she is constantly ripping up and down as being biased against her in full Trumpian fashion. The only difference being the media actually do hate Trump, but they adore AOC. They're walking around with a drool cup for AOC. It's unbelievable. They drool more than my 2.5-year-old son with a cold. It's astonishing. And then they come to their final point, the media, and their final point when it comes to the Green New Deal is, you know what, it doesn't really matter what she put up on her website. It doesn't really matter what she thinks. It doesn't really matter what policy proposals are put forward. All that matters is that if we don't do something, millions will die. So you get Katie Tur on MSNBC doing this routine, an objective news host on MSNBC. And she says, look, without the Green New Deal, millions will die. Before we get to her clip, let me just explain. The House resolution provides zero solutions, none. The House resolution just says there should be a Green New Deal that gets us off of carbon fuels. That's basically the entire text of the resolution. It doesn't say anything. And that's like saying, we resolve, this House of Congress resolved that everyone in the United States should be incredibly wealthy. And the media goes, woo, yeah! I mean, without that resolution, people would be poor. It's like, you actually have to do something as Congress to make your goal happen. But according to Katie Tur, the real problem is not the Democrats are proposing irresponsible, silly, ridiculous, counterproductive things that would not in any way actually impact the economy on a global, impact the climate on a global scale, but would destroy the United States economy. The real key is that without a resolution like this that is absolutely nonsensical, millions will die, which is a shock to me since I'm already dead because of net neutrality. I'm already dead since Brett Kavanaugh's on the Supreme Court. I'm already dead because of the tax cuts. I've died so many times at this point since Trump was elected. I mean, I have 9 lives, and I think so does everyone else in the United States. According to Katie Tur, millions will die unless we abide by a resolution that has no specifics and does not explain how it seeks to achieve what it wants to achieve.
The UN said we have 12 years before complete disaster. You talked to the representative of the Marshall Islands, and he's calling it what could amount to genocide if we allow things to go as they are. The reports aren't just, hey, it's going to get bad. The reports are people will die. Millions and millions and millions of people will die.
Okay, I don't know which reports she's looking at that millions and millions of people will die. Again, the implication for the IPCC is that lots of people will have to move, that there will be significant climate change over the next century. I'm always bewildered by the point made by folks on the left that the water levels will rise and thus millions will die over the course of the next century. Bjorn Lomborg makes this point. Does he think that people are just going to start looking down at their feet and the water is going to be rising around their feet? You know what? I'm going to wait until this thing rises a couple more meters. I'm just going to, like, you look down, when it rains in your house, do you notice when it leaks into your house? I do. Would you notice if the water levels rose enough that the water was now in your house? My guess is you would. Would you stick around and wait for it to reach nose level? I highly doubt it. It's not going to be day after tomorrow. It's not a giant tsunami that swamps all of the coasts around the world. That's not how this works. And yet, without this pointless resolution that actually doesn't even achieve what it seeks to achieve. As I mentioned last week, this resolution, AOC's plan suggested originally in the plan that there would be no reliance on nuclear power, which is insane. You can't go green emissions if you don't use nuclear power. But this resolution doesn't even touch what would happen with climate change. If the United States were to get to zero emissions by 2030, it would lower the global climate by something like 0.124 degrees Celsius over the next century. That ain't going to cut it. You know who's responsible for the growing level of emissions in the world? That would be India, China, Brazil, developing countries, not the first world.